Good afternoon, everyone. Today and tomorrow, these 2 days are very important. Okay, only these 2 days, today and tomorrow. These 2 days will change your life. These 2 days will change your life. Okay, why I am saying this, you will get to know. Okay, by the end of tomorrow. Good afternoon, Rajshri. Let us begin with what we were doing yesterday. First, quick revision of whatever we have gone through yesterday. Okay. I was going through some of the answers that you have written in your test. Okay, just glancing through it. I was just skimming through it. You guys have attempted really well. Okay, very nice attempt. All of you have given. It does not matter how many questions you have left. Okay, that does not matter because that is very natural. Initially, it will take time. Okay, for you to attempt all the questions, but those of you who have left 4 questions, okay, they really need to work on time management because the paper was not so lengthy that you leave 4 questions. Okay, leaving 4 questions means something is wrong with your writing speed, or maybe your thinking process. You're taking a lot of time to think. Okay, and those of you who have left 1 or 2 questions, that is decent, that is completely okay. Okay, after some point of time, those who have left 4 questions, they may uh, come to that level where they are leaving only 1 or 2 questions, and those who have left 1 or 2, they may complete the paper. This will happen naturally. Okay, you don't need to worry about it. So, and remember always that uh, since we had already gone through previous year questions, we had already gone through those previous year questions. So the test the main purpose of test would be to check how do you manage everything when you confront new questions. Okay, because in UPSC you will get new questions only. We should not be expecting that they are going to repeat questions. That is not happening now. Okay, at least for the last 3 years in all the options that is happening. So they are not really going to see what you have memorized. Rather, what you have understood is what they are going to check. Let us now quickly start with our main topic. Okay, so what we did yesterday, we were talking about class struggle. Okay, okay, this topic is not over yet, by the way. This topic is not over. What I was explaining to you yesterday is a micro detail of this topic. Okay, how are you going to make notes of this topic? What are you going to write? Well, something that I'll explain you today itself. Okay, as I told you that today and tomorrow, these two are most important days. What basically I was explaining you yesterday was simply, I would say, the answer to question which came to the mind of Marx, in the sense, how is profit generated? This is the question that Marx is dealing with, a question that no other economist really dealt with in as much detail as Marx did. Okay, and in a way that Marx did. Okay, now I'm going to make it more simpler today. Suppose you are sitting in your home, your family members, your guest, some guests have come over to your home. What would you say? What would you do? You would say, hello uncle, hello auntie, hi, how are you, kaise ho? ऐसे ऐसे करके you will greet them. Okay, this is how, with a smiling face, you will greet them. Okay, what does it mean? Your smile has use value. You are using your smile to satisfy your needs. And what is your need? To respect the elderly or to respect the guests. This is your need, and this is why you are smiling. So your smile has use value. Use value. Okay. Your brother will say, Maggie bana de. Okay, I'll make it Maggie. Okay. Now, this Maggie that you have made for your brother or for your sister, Maggie has use value. Okay. You are sitting with your friends and you, since you have some good sense of humor also, so you would crack some jokes. Okay. Kuch purani baatein you will recall and you will make a joke out of it. Okay. And your friends will start laughing. That means your sense of humor has use value. Use value. Okay. I am driving my car. Okay. I will decide where I want to go. I will decide where my car is going to have a stopover at which place. Okay. My car has use value. Car, Maggie, sense of humor, smile, all these things have use value. Okay. But now imagine another scenario. Now you have good sense of humor, but you are not making your friends laugh. You are making an audience laugh. Now your sense of humor has exchange value. Okay. You are not making Maggie for your brother. You are making Maggie for students of old Rajendra Nagar. Now, your Maggie has exchange value. You are not smiling and greeting your guests and parents or elderlies. Now you are smiling in a shopping mall, greeting customers. Hello, sir. How may I help you? Your smile has exchange value. Okay. Because it is only through the smile those customers may get impressed with the services. He might buy something, she might buy something. Your smile has generated revenue to the company. Your smile has exchange value. Okay. Your car that you were driving, it had use value. The moment you decide, I will rent out my car to Uber or Ola. Now this car has got exchange value. You are sitting in your house. Okay. Talking to your friends, doing whatever you want to, sitting in your room, studying, whatever you want to do. Suddenly, one day, you decide to rent out your house to the students of old Rajendra Nagar, or you decide to rent out your house to Airbnb. That is one app. Airbnb, जैसे Uber होता है, अपनी गाड़ी को रेंट पे लगा दो, अपने घर को रेंट पे लगा दो. Airbnb. Now your house, which had use value, now this house has exchange value. What does it mean? It means only one thing, that today हर एक चीज की कीमत है. हर एक चीज की कीमत है आज की डेट में. एवरीथिंग हैज गॉट अ प्राइस टैग टुडे. योर स्माइल, योर कार, योर हाउस, योर सेंस ऑफ ह्यूमर, even your beauty, even your beauty, okay, your eyes, everything has exchange value. Everything आज की डेट में सब बिकता है. And Marx says, all that is solid melts in air, and all that is holy is profaned. अरे जो चीज की कीमत लग ही नहीं सकती थी, उस चीज की भी कीमत लग रही है. This is what capitalism is. This is what the modern industrial capitalism is. Even your body organs have value. This is not the world that people once had when they were hunting, gathering, simply consuming their primary needs. आज क्या हो गया सडनली, हर चीज का पैसा लग रहा है. And Marx says, capitalism is that spirit. Capitalism is that spirit which can turn all the use values into exchange values. Okay. It can turn all the use values into exchange values, and this is how profit is generated. What was the question? How is profit generated? Okay, so in simple words, in capitalism, okay, the use values are transformed into exchange values. This generates profit. Acha, but this also does not answer the question per se. This generates profit because the next question would be how exchange value generates profit. Now this is the next question. Question number 2. Question number 2. How exchange value generates profit. Okay. ये सब रिवीजन चल रहा है पहले जो कल पढ़ाया है उसका, ताकि एकदम दिमाग में पहले चले जाए. Okay, now you will understand these things only because I have told you those things yesterday. Okay. देखो, when you made your friends laugh, was it not labor? अच्छा, labor does not mean ये ईंट उठाना, सीमेंट, ये labor नहीं होता है. Okay. What is the meaning of labor? What is the meaning of labor? Can someone tell me how do you define labor? The simple meaning. Don't think that you're a student of sociology. What is the simple meaning of labor? Work. Work. Okay. Making other people laugh is also a work. Okay. Sometimes you do not charge for making people laugh. Okay. But that is also work, by the way. That does not mean that you are not doing work. You are doing work. Okay. Just that it is not paid work. You are making your friends laugh. उसके लिए थोड़ा ना पैसे लेंगे. Okay. But now you're making some other people laugh. Now this is work, so-called work that we recognize as work. When the same person was making people laugh, then we did not call it work. When the same person was making his friends laugh, we did not call it work. Now he is making audience laugh. Now it is regarded as work. ये थोड़ा अजीब है अभी, पर देखो कैसे अभी क्या मार्क्स क्या करने वाला है अभी, देखो तो ठीक है. Marx says every commodity has both use value and exchange value. Every commodity has both use value and exchange value. अच्छा, a commodity does not mean physical object. सारे वर्ड्स एक एक आज पहले क्लियर करूंगा मैं, ठीक है. Commodity does not mean physical object. Okay. You may think this is commodity. Yes, हाँ commodity है. Okay. But the way I am speaking right now, okay, my communication skill is also commodity. पैसा लगता है कम्युनिकेशन स्किल का भी मार्केट में आज की डेट में, ठीक है. And this is why, companies would ask for someone who has good communication skill, who has good experience. Experience is also commodity. Your educational background is also commodity, because only because of these things you get money. You exchange your past experience, you are exchanging your educational background, you are exchanging your communication skill with the other person, in exchange of which you are getting money. That means you have exchanged something. What have you exchanged? You have exchanged commodity. And what is the name of commodity? Labor. Okay. So everything, by the way, is a commodity. Everything in the world is a commodity. Commodity has both use value, exchange value. Okay. Now, what does Marx say? Marx says that the use values are transformed into exchange values in the world of today. Okay. But the question is, how is exchange value determined? How is exchange value determined? What is the meaning of this question? Bhai, if I'm a comedian, if I have to make people laugh, how is exchange value going to be determined? ये कैसे मालूम करेंगे कितना पैसा मिलना चाहिए इस आदमी को? Okay, if Kapil Sharma is making millions of people laugh, okay, or few people laugh, whatever that may be, how are you going to decide how much Kapil should be paid? What is the criteria for paying Kapil Sharma? Okay, a very big question. See, imagine if Kapil Sharma makes 1 billion people laugh, if he has 1 billion views in his video, okay, imagine, and he is paid for only 1 million views. Imagine like this. He has garnered 1 billion views. That means his worth is 1 billion views. Okay, his worth is 1 billion views, but he is given payment only for 1 million views. Okay, this generates profit. The skill that you have, you can make Maggie worth 1000 rupees. Okay, 1000 rupees की भी Maggie आती है, by the way. Okay, you can make Maggie worth 1000 rupees. Okay, and the price tag of your Maggie is 900 or 1000, whatever that may be, but you are getting how much? 100 rupees per Maggie. Where is 901? This is what Marx is saying. How do we determine the exchange value? Okay, मार्क्स का एक आइडिया बड़ा सिंपल है. वो बोलता है that worker in the production process, creates value more than what is given to him. Very important line. Very important line. Worker in the production process creates values more than what is given to him or her. Okay. Worker creates values more than what is given to him or her. Okay. And when worker creates values more than what is given to him or her, that means this created value, which is more than what is given to him, is this not surplus? This is surplus value. This is surplus value. Okay. Now next step. Next step, value of commodity. Let us imagine the commodity is iPhone. Example, value of commodity. What is the value of commodity that we know in common sense? That is 80,000. Okay, 80,000 rupees. Okay, minimum मान के चलो 80,000. Acha, what this 80,000 consists of? How 80,000 has actually become the price tag of the iPhone? Because the commodity carries many things which, if when added, will make the cost of iPhone 80,000. Acha, what are those things which, if added, make the cost 80,000? Mark says those things are C plus V plus S. C plus V plus S. Okay. Acha, what is C? C is constant capital. V is variable capital. S is surplus. S is surplus. Okay. And remember, ये सरप्लस कहां से आया? इधर से आया. सरप्लस हवा से तो नहीं आया भाई. How did Ambani become so billionaire? Surplus कहां से? How did he get surplus? Surplus from the laborers only. Okay. So this surplus is creation of iPhone. iPhone in itself is creating surplus, or is it the laborer which has created surplus? अभी नीचे देखो बताया मैंने. Okay, basically this S is created by whom? This V. Who is V? Variable capital. What is the meaning of variable capital? First, write down each. Let us first define each and every word. Okay. Write down first constant capital. The meaning of constant capital. Okay. Constant capital is the amount of money invested in raw material, machines or tools. Constant capital is the amount of money invested in machine, tools. Okay. Machine and tools. This is constant capital. Okay. What is variable capital? Amount of money invested in hiring the laborer. Okay. See, if my worth is 10 rupees per month. Okay. If my worth is 10 rupees per month, that means what is variable capital? The level of people have invested 10 rupees on me. Okay. So variable capital is 10 rupees. My worth is 10 rupees. Okay. Constant capital लिख लिया, variable capital लिख लिया. Amount of money invested on wage of the labor, which we call as labor power. Labor power. I have sold my labor for 10 rupees. So that is why labor power is variable capital only. Okay. Acha. Now my worth is 10 rupees. But what I am creating, is having worth more than 10 rupees. Okay. What I am creating is having worth more than 10 rupees. Okay. But what I am getting is only 10 rupees. What I am getting is only 10 rupees. What Marx is saying that worker produce value in the work process, worth V plus S. Worker produce value in the work process worth V plus S. ओके, अपना 10 रुपीज का जो भी उसका खर्चा है उस हिसाब से तो काम किया, उसके अलावा और भी क्रिएट किया कंपनी के लिए. बट worker gets only V, not S. Simple. Worker gets only V, not S. Okay. Now remember, this V is variable capital, right? Which is labor power, which is paid labor. This S is surplus created by this labor power, okay, which is worth more than the labor power himself. And but this S is not given to the worker, therefore this S is unpaid labor. Since it is not given to laborer, so this is unpaid labor. Okay, what does it mean? It simply means कि वर्कर का कट गया है, सीधी सी बात है, मुद्दे की. Basically, what Marx is saying that this is what exploitation is. This is what is known as exploitation. When you do not give him the unpaid labor, I mean, you have hidden the unpaid labor from him. You are giving him only something that is required to meet his needs. Okay, and rest everything you are putting in your pockets. This is what Marx is saying to capitalist. Okay. And Marx says finally that the rate of profit, in fact, he would say that rate of exploitation would be surplus value by variable capital. Simple. S by V. The more the S, the more surplus value is generated, more is the rate of exploitation. Okay. इसको ध्यान रखना है. Okay. Rate of exploitation. This is how he calculates the rate of exploitation. Okay. Okay. Now, it also means that it is unpaid labor divided by paid labor. Simple. Now let us go into further details. और deep जाते हैं थोड़ा सा. Okay. And remember, the way we are going into the deeper details of capitalism, we did not go into such details of feudalism or what do you call it as ancient society or primitive communism. Why so? Because Marx himself never gone into those details of those mode of production. Why Marx did not explain feudalism in as much depth as he is explaining capitalism? Remember, Marx is the scholar of capitalism. He is always remembered as scholar of capitalism, not even communism. Communism is a dream. वो एक dream है. Largely, whatever he has written is for capitalism. Das Capital, Volume 1, 2, 3. Okay. T capital. Mainly he is talking only about capitalism. Okay. Now the question is, the question is, what are the details, in the sense how exactly all these things happen in reality? These are mathematical things only, okay, but what is happening in reality? Marx explains that since we know that rate of exploitation is S by V, so let us try to understand. Let us try to understand. And remember, rate of exploitation, the more you exploit, the more you gain profit. More you gain profit. The more you exploit, that means the more surplus value you have generated. The more surplus value you have generated, the more profit you have gained. Now the question is, how exploitation takes place? I've talked about rate of exploitation. Now the question is, what are the modes of exploitation? What are the modes of exploitation? First is absolute surplus value. Absolute surplus value. Okay, and second is relative surplus value. There are two modes of exploitation: absolute surplus value, relative surplus value. Now, how is absolute surplus value generated? Imagine absolute surplus value. Imagine this is the length of working day. Length of working day. What is happening in the whole working day? Okay. Working day consists of 0 to 8 hours. Let us assume 8, कुछ भी मान लो, 8 मान लेते हैं. Let us assume the working day is of 8 hours. Now, the fact is, if I want to extract, I'm capitalist, I'm industrialist, I'm not worker. Okay. If I want to extract maximum profit from the workers, okay, what will I do? I have two options. The first option is to increase the length of working day. By in 8 hours, workers have produced worth 1 crore. Okay, so let us double the working hours. In 16 hours, they can produce worth 2 crore. Okay, so how I am going to exploit workers? I will increase the length of working day. I'll make it 10. I'll make it 10. And remember, in this 0 to 8 hours span of the working day, worker was getting, remember this, worker was getting only that amount which is required for him to meet his needs, and that was equivalent to 3 hours. V. And this 3 to 8, that is 5 hours. was surplus generated by the capitalist class. Bhai, you have worth. What you are employed in a company, and what the services that you are offering to the company are worth 1 lakh rupees per day. Okay, but what are you getting per day? 2000 rupees. Okay, so 2000 is what is 2000? Bare minimum that should be given to you for you to meet your needs every day का जो मैगी वैगी खाना होता है उस सब के लिए 2000 काफी है. ठीक है, 98,000 बाकी हम रखेंगे. ठीक है, एंड 2000 रुपीज कहां बन जाता है? 3 घंटे में बन जाता है. What are you doing for the rest 5 hours? You are working for the capitalist class. You are not working for yourself. You are working for the capitalist class 5 hours. Now, if they want to extract more and more amount of money, surplus value from you, they will extend the working day to 10 hours. But this is not very easy job. It is not so easy. Especially today when you have labor laws, when you have factory act, when you have state which is welfare state, when you have communist parties all over the states, they will start protesting. चिल्लाने आ जाएंगे सड़क पे. Okay, they will say, how can these people make these workers work for 12 hours 14 hours? This is inhuman, this is against human right. इस तरह की बातें शुरू हो जाती हैं आज की डेट में. So this is not very easy task. They cannot make these people work for 10 hours. Do you remember in lockdown labor laws were suspended. Labor law suspension means now the capitalist class is free to make them work for extended hours, and they cannot form unions, they cannot protest. चुपचाप काम करना पड़ेगा उनको. Okay, so what was that? That was mode of exploitation. Mode of exploitation, because minimum wage was not guaranteed to them, but increased amount of working hour was definitely there. Minimum wage भी हटा दिया था, मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट भी हटा दिया था. मध्य प्रदेश, महाराष्ट्र, यूपी, इन सब में हुआ ये. ओके, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में केस भी गया था. Now, length of the working day was increased, but this task is not very easy. This is not an easy task to make money. This is not an easy task to make money or to make surplus or to generate surplus value. Okay, not an easy task for whom? For the capitalist. This is not an easy task for the capitalist to make money out of the workers. We have many laws in operation which restrict the capitalist class to do any such thing. So what is the capitalist class going to do right now? Since they cannot increase length of working day, what is the last option that we have left to them? The last option is relative surplus value. This is second way to exploit. Since first way is not working, relative surplus value. Now, this is the most important part of Marxism. Relative surplus value. Now, the question is, what is relative surplus value? Just write down one line here in absolute surplus value. Absolute surplus value is generated by increasing length of the working day. Absolute surplus value is generated by increasing length of the working day. Okay, there is one more way that you can increase surplus value: by surveillance, by tight monitoring of the workers. Tight monitoring, bhai, simple सी बात है. If they want half an hour break, इट शुड बी स्ट्रिक्टली हाफ एन आवर. इसके लिए मैनेजर्स रखे हुए हैं हमने, स्ट्रिक्टली हाफ आवर, क्योंकि एक एक मिनट कीमती है. तो टाइट मॉनिटरिंग कर दो तो भी एब्सोल्यूट सरप्लस वैल्यू जनरेट कर सकते हो आप वर्कर्स के थ्रू. ओके, टाइट मॉनिटरिंग. दिस इज व्हाई कंपनीज आर वेरी स्ट्रिक्ट. दे नाउ हैव बायोमेट्रिक मैकेनिज्म. टाइम पे आओ, टाइम पे ही जाओगे, उससे पहले नहीं, क्योंकि इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू जनरेट सरप्लस वैल्यू. ओके, something that we do not realize, we feel that we are working for ourselves. Okay, but largely Marx is saying no, you are working for yourself only 20%, rest 80% you are working for the company. Okay, this is what Marx is saying. Anyhow, the absolute surplus value is generated by increasing length of the working day and by tight monitoring or surveillance of the workers. However, next line, however, length of the working day cannot be increased beyond a point. However, length of the working day cannot be increased beyond a point. Due to labor laws. And labor laws and human rights. Labor laws and human rights. तो अब क्या करें? कोई बात नहीं, एक तरीका और है. I am capitalist. I have one more method to generate profit. What will I do to generate profit? This option तो is eliminated. Human rights है, labor laws है. Next option is, क्यों ना let me decrease this labor power further. Let me make it 2 so that I have 6. Understanding? Bhai, I cannot go beyond this 8. I cannot make it 9, 10 because of labor laws. अब मुझे खेलना तो इसी में है, क्या करूं? तो ये 3 का 2 कर देते हैं ताकि 5 का 6 हो जाए. Relative surplus value. अब ध्यान से इसको सुनना. Here I am making a comparative chart of absolute and relative. Here I'll explain relative. Okay. Now see, 0 to 8 cannot be extended beyond it. Till 3 hours it was B. Rest 5 was surplus value. Since it cannot be extended beyond it, what will I do? I'll reduce 3 to 2. I'll increase that way surplus value to 6. This is relative surplus value, this is absolute surplus value. Acha, how does this happen in reality? Remember, if you remember that formula, rate of exploitation, there I told you the formula is S by V. So you had one choice. If you want to have rate of exploitation in your favor, you want to generate more profit, either you increase surplus value or you decrease this. ये तो होता है maths. Okay. And this is what is being done here. This was being done here. It cannot be done because of labor laws that we have, but this can be done. Okay. And how is this done is something that now I will explain. The task for the capitalist is to increase the productivity of the labor. What he was producing in 3 hours, now if he can produce the same in 2 hours, what does it mean? What does it mean? That we have increased the productivity of the labor, right? Now imagine, if you can generate what you have generated in 2 hours, if you can generate the same thing now in 1 hour, more increased productivity, you are, भाई तुम और skilled होते जा रहे हो. What you are doing in 5 hours, now you are able to do in 1 hour. Okay. Now what you are doing in 1 hour, I have made you more and more skilled, upskilled you. Now you can do that same thing in half hour. After some point of time, you will be doing the same thing in 15 minutes. After some point of time, you will do the same thing in 10 minutes, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you are unemployed. Okay, what is happening? Basically, what your productivity, increase in productivity is supplemented with the introduction of machines. Okay, since now you have machines also, most of the workers are now being replaced gradually by machines to increase the productivity, because length of the working day cannot be increased. Okay, you will start abusing the capitalist class. सारा दिन काम करवाते हैं, घर पे भी नहीं छोड़ते. ओके, काम दे दिया है, काम दे दिया है, काम दे दिया है, अब काम मिलेगा ही नहीं. ठीक है, because machines cannot abuse the capitalist class. Okay, so this is achieved by, write down, relative surplus value is achieved by increasing the productivity of the labor and introduction of machines. Okay, introduction of machines. Now what will happen? Machines are highly productive. They will produce for 24/7 without any complaint. And now you have been appointed as manager of the company. You are simply now manager. At one point of time, you were doing physical work. Now you will get happy that you have become manager. Promotion ho gaya mera. You are managing. What does it mean? You have to manage that machines are working properly, staff is coming on time, okay, the repairers of the machines, okay, और the installment जो भी लगी है, सारा खर्चा जो हुआ मशीन को लगाने का, वो सब देखते रहो तुम टाइम पे सही हो रहा है कि नहीं. So you are manager, you are doing monitoring now. Okay. अच्छा. The fact is, machines have gotten introduced at the cost of workers. Although machines will increase the amount of goods that are produced, okay, but since the workers have gotten eliminated with the introduction of machines, those goods produced out of the machines will not be purchased by anyone. Okay, of course, I'm not saying by anyone, but it will lead to overproduction and underconsumption. This is what Marx is saying. After some point of time in economy, what happens? There are cycles of boom and bust. This is what economy goes through. Every year this happens. Boom and bust hota hi hai economy mein. Sometimes overproduction, underconsumption, sometimes underproduction, overconsumption. These are the kind of cycles that economy goes through. Okay. So Marx is explaining the reason behind that cycle. Okay, what is happening in reality? at the ground level. Okay. So relative surplus value is achieved by increasing productivity of the labor and introduction of machines. However, however, this may, this may, or in fact may nahi will, this will, this will sow the seeds of the destruction of capitalism. This will sow the seeds of the destruction of capitalism. Okay. And you must have realized from 1850, okay, till date 2020, 150 years, more than 150 years have gone by. And what we are seeing is nothing but more and more mechanization and rationalization at the workplaces. Okay. More and more workplaces are getting rationalized and mechanized. New machines आते जा रही हैं, आते जा रही हैं, आती जा रही हैं. Okay. Old workers or the unskilled workers, they are getting more and more unemployed. Okay. What Marx was trying to explain was that the rate of unemployment will increase more and more. Okay. This is the thesis of Marx. Unemployment, the increase in unemployment is inevitable. It cannot be avoided. Okay. So this is what the relative surplus value is all about. Surplus value is generated at the cost of the employment of millions. That means the capital is accumulated, appropriated by few people, and maximum are unemployed. Maximum joining what? Now is the next question. When machines are introduced, many people are getting unemployed, are replaced by machines. When they are replaced by machines, what do these unemployed people form? In the language of Marx, the pool of these unemployed people would be called as, or is called as, industrial reserve army. This is reserve army. Okay, remember this word. Industrial reserve army. The pool will generate industrial reserve army, IRA, industrial reserve army. Industrial reserve army. Okay. That means now capitalist class has many people who can work at whatever price these people will decide, the capitalists, because they are unemployed. Okay. Readily available for exploitation. See what is happening. When the lockdown was imposed, these people were saying in interviews, we can do whatever to sustain our lives today, because we have nothing in our hands right now. This is what the reverse migrant people were saying while going back to their homes. हमें कुछ भी काम दे दो. Now the thing is, they had become so much vulnerable. Clearly people were seeing कि खुलेआम ये कह रहे कि हमें कुछ भी दे दो, 10 रुपए दे दो, 2 रुपए दे दो. Okay, now this is the extent of vulnerability those people had become victim of. Okay, and these people are, in the language of Marx, reserve army, industrial reserve army. Now imagine if I am the owner of factory, and if worker comes to me, do you think when so much unemployed people are there, do you think you will have bargaining power? You will say कि you will say सर महीने का कम से कम 1 करोड़ तो मैं लेता हूँ. ओके, वो बोलेंगे तुम बहुत हमारे पास हैं 100 रुपए में काम करने वाले, 1 करोड़ तुमको क्यों दें? Why should we give you 1 crore when we have so many unemployed people who can work for 100 rupees? Shut up, निकलो यहाँ से चलो. So when you have so many unemployed people, you lose bargaining power also. Okay, because capitalist class is free to recruit any person from that pool. And this pool is creation of which class? This capitalist class only. Okay, this pool is creation of this capitalist class, and therefore though all those people who are in the pool will lose their bargaining power. First, write down the definition of industrial reserve army. Right? Industrial reserve army consists of a pool of unemployed people who want to work. A pool of both unemployed who want to work and underemployed. Okay, if you are underemployed, then also you are a member of reserve army. If you are unemployed but want to work, you are a member of reserve army. Okay. Industrial reserve army consists of both underemployed and those who are unemployed and want to work. What is the meaning of underemployment? The meaning of underemployment. Suppose you have PhD, okay, and you are working as a slave, okay, or if despite having PhD, you are wiping floors in some government office. Okay, ऐसा होता है, देख लेना तुम गूगल पे. Okay, this is underemployment. And some people are overemployed for some positions. ठीक है, हाँ इंजीनियरिंग वालों का तो साथ बहुत ज्यादा हो गया, मैं क्या ही करूँगा. ठीक है, तो अब ये है कहानी. Okay, these are the two modes of exploitation, and you have also understood industrial reserve army. Now, worker, after a certain point of time, when this cycle is going on, in the sense from 2 to 1.8, after 1 year 1.6, after 1 year 1.4, 1.3, 1, 0.5, when this cycle will go on and on and on and on and on and on, what will happen? You will lose your labor power. You will lose your labor power, okay, after some point of time. And when you decide to join some job, the capitalists would have a large pool of underemployed from where they can pull in someone who is cheaper than you. This is how the capitalism is running. This is what Marx is trying to say. Okay. चलो, ये तो हो गया. पूरी कहानी. So what is the conclusion? What is the conclusion? The conclusion is that, as I told you, the very first line, worker produces values worth more than its own value at the workplace. Okay, it simply means that the value of commodity generated by you is worth more than your self. And it also shows that dead capital or dead labor. What you are producing is dead labor. Okay, it is simply expression of your labor. So that is dead. Dead labor is worth more than living labor. Okay, dead labor dominates over living labor. Your worth is 30,000 per month, but what you are producing is 1 lakh per day. Okay, भाई तुम पेंटिंग क्रिएट करते हो, मान लो पेंटर हो तुम बहुत बड़े. Okay, some company has hired you. That company is giving you 30,000 rupees per month for making paintings, and those paintings are sold for 1 crore. That painting, your work is bigger than you. ये कब हुआ जिंदगी में? ऐसा कभी हुआ था कभी? This will happen only in capitalism. Okay, this will happen only in capitalism. Now, the conclusion is that since the commodity is worth more than the labor power, the dead capital dominates over the living capital, over the dead capital or dead labor dominates over the living labor. And the most important line, assumes a reality external to the creator. Assumes a reality external to the creator. सोहिनी, मैंने क्वेश्चन अभी पढ़ा तो नहीं है ऑनेस्टली, बट मेरे को दिख रहा है क्वेश्चन तुमने कुछ लिखा है. ओके, अभी मैं आता हूं. ओके, assumes a reality external to the creator. Now imagine, this is very interesting point. When you look at commodities like Starbucks coffee, iPhone, okay, what is your first reaction? भाई पैसा, स्टेटस, कैश है, क्या बात है? The fact is, when actors fail to realize, when we people fail to realize that the worth of commodity, the worth of Starbucks that is 400 rupees per glass, or the worth of iPhone that is 80,000 is actually the result of labor, when actors fail to realize this. This is the same thing that Marx says, that Feuerbach had also told to all the people, that we have created God, but we have elevated God to such a level that the creation has become external to the creator, and now we start assuming that he is almighty, he is everything, he is everywhere. And the same status we have now started giving or granting to these objects. We fail to realize that these objects are the creation of these creators. And these objects assume a reality of their own type. When you look at Apple iPhone, or Apple iPhone, Starbucks, अरे वही सेम चीज तुम कर रहे हो जो भगवान के साथ की थी तुमने. This is what Marx is trying to say, and this is what is called as fetish of commodity. Fetish. What is fetish? Write down one line after this. This leads to fetishism of commodities. This leads to fetishism of commodities. What is the meaning of fetishism? फेटिशिज्म का मीनिंग क्या होता है? कैन समवन टेल मी? इंग्लिश वर्ड है ये तो सिंपल, इसमें सोशियोलॉजी कुछ नहीं है, देयर इज नो सोशियोलॉजी इन दिस. डीप डिजायर, रेवरिंग, यस, क्रेविंग, हाँ बिल्कुल सही है. रेवरिंग, क्रेविंग, डिजायर, फेटिश. Okay, I have fetish for this, I have fetish for that, fetish, fetish, fetish. Okay, it's almost equivalent to lust. You lust for it. Okay, and fetishism, by the way, is a name of religion. Fetishism is a name of religion. And what is this religion all about? When you start craving for something mystical, magical, those objects seem to create an aura. Okay, and you start believing that these objects have some talismanic features. इसमें कुछ है जादू, जैसे पर्ल्स, जो पर्ल्स होते थे, या फिर जो जैसे लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल कोई स्टोन आपको दिख गया विच इज हाईली प्रेशियस एंड समथिंग विच गिव्स एन इंप्रेशन दैट इसमें कुछ जादू है, कुछ मैजिकल है. दिस इज व्हाट फेटिशिज्म. फेटिशिज्म मींस टू वर्शिप द ऑब्जेक्ट्स विच सीम हाईली मैजिकल टू यू. In simple language, to worship objects which are which seem very highly magical to you. That is fetishism. The same worship we are doing of the commodities, Apple iPhone के हम ऐसा करते हैं. PlayStation 5, ठीक है, ये तुम्हारा क्या कहते हैं, अरे हम एक्टर्स के लिए भी यही करते हैं, जो बॉलीवुड के एक्टर्स, वी स्टार्ट लुकिंग एट ऋतिक रोशन, ओ माय गॉड, ओ माय गॉड, गॉड गॉड गॉड. अरे गॉड नहीं है वो, शाहरुख खान, all these, what is this? This is what Adorno and Horkheimer says. Cultural industry. यही तभी तो वो नियो मार्क्सिस्ट हैं. Okay, and remember, Adorno Horkheimer was very much influenced by the writings of Marx. Obviously, if someone is neo-Marxist, he is influenced by Marx only. And when Adorno Horkheimer, when they read Marx thesis on this commodity fetishism of commodity, okay, then they argued that the way we look at Apple iPhone, जैसा कार्ल मार्क्स बोलता है, okay, similarly we are not able to differentiate between, or we are not able to understand that these singers which we have given so much value, Britney Spears, Lady Gaga, Rihanna, बादशाह, हनी सिंह, रफ्तार, ठीक है, all these people are one and the same, and we start believing that they have magical value and they become like superhero एकदम कॉन्सर्ट कॉलेज में लगता है, रफ्तार आ रहा है, okay, and they assume a creation just like the God was to those people and the commodity is to the working class. The same thing happens to the people when they see the cultural personalities. Okay, commodity fetishism. आदर्श गुप्ता सर, कैन वी रिलेट सब्जेक्टिव कंडीशन ऑफ क्लास? अभी तो मैंने ऐसी वर्ड ही नहीं यूज की सब्जेक्टिव कंडीशन, अभी मैं करूंगा सब्जेक्टिव कंडीशन. बड़ा अच्छा तुमने याद दिलाया मेरे को, कल वाली जो बात है उस पर मैं आता हूं अभी, ठीक है. So I hope you have understood this. Okay, write down. Commodity fetishism is the result of actors failing to realize that the commodity is the creation of labor. Commodity is creation of labor value only. Is the creation of labor. Basically, what is Marx is saying, that the worth of iPhone should be the worth of amount given to those people who manufactured iPhone. Okay, and the worth of amount given to one person, let us assume like this, let us try to simplify these things like this. Like for example, worth of one person who has made iPhone is 20,000. So the amount of iPhone should also be 20,000. ये जो extra 60 आया है, ये नहीं होना चाहिए. This is what Marx is saying. Okay, extra 60. So why we give so much status to iPhone? Because it differentiates people. It helps people in differentiating themselves from rest of the people. It becomes a status symbol because investing 2 lakh rupees in a phone is a status. Okay, or 1 lakh in a phone is a status. But why did it assume a status? Because it cost 1 lakh or 2 lakh. But the real cost is 20,000. The moment the moment you break into this illusion, smoke screen, okay, you will not have a fetish for this object. Okay, this is what Marx is saying. Okay, so this is all about these things. Now, let us come back to very important phenomena. Okay, and then I will come to the class struggle and all those things. Okay, Marx has described one law of motion. ये तुमने सुना ही नहीं होगा. Law of motion of capitalism. Kepler has given law of planetary motion, and Marx has given law of the motion of capitalism. Okay, law of motion, very important law. Totem like, हाँ हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. तभी तो when I will teach comparison between Durkheim and Marx, you will see many similarities and many differences also. Along with external is the commodity also coercive. हाँ बहुत सही प्रांशु, बहुत ही सही जा रहे हो, बहुत ही सही जा रहे हो. Okay, but what basically I'm trying to say is that tomorrow I will tell you how Durkheim and Marx are very much familiar. Remember I told you one day both are macro scholars. Macro, they give importance to structures, they do not give importance to individuals, and both are talking almost in a similar fashion. Commodity is becoming external to the individuals. Okay, and therefore coercive as well. When anything is external to you, it always assumes a coercive power on you. It has coercive power on you. Okay. Okay. So, law of motion of capitalism, very important law. And with this law, everything will be over. Everything. Only one topic will be left: alienation. जो भी आज खत्म कर देंगे. Now, let me have 2-minute break. थोड़ा exhausted हूँ मैं आज. 2 minutes break. 3 minutes. Oh, sorry, 5 minutes. Okay, let us. What is class in itself? ये तो अभी आगे आएगा. ये अभी आया कहाँ है? All this will come in the class struggle. Okay. Remember one thing. Capitalism rewards efficiency. The more efficient you are, the more you are rewarded. Okay. But you cannot be more efficient than a machine. As I told you, capitalism rewards efficiency. So capitalist will always prefer machines over you. Machine का मतलब literally machine नहीं है. Okay. Machine का मतलब anything that is beyond human labor. Anything that is beyond human labor. Okay. Supercomputer, artificial intelligence. These are beyond human labor. Okay. You cannot be more efficient than a supercomputer or an artificial intelligence. And after some point of time, there will be a time when machines will start thinking like human beings. Today, machines do not think like human beings. This is the only thing which differentiates machine from us. But after a point of time, and we are progressing towards that, when we will start talking about, we have already started talking about that concept called as singularity. Singularity means machines now thinking like humans. Now, when machines will start thinking like humans, what will happen to humans? Think like that. Okay. What will be the means of subsistence? How will we earn? Will there be this economy like you sell your labor to someone and then he will give you per month something? What will be the kind of mode of production? That is something that is very futuristic, but although we have already started talking about those things, some people say by 2020 2050 we will have singularity. Okay, anyhow, I'll talk about these things when I'm dealing with current affair. Okay, contemporary stuff. Now, what is this law of motion? Remember, I told you capitalism will sow the seeds of its own destruction. Okay, and capitalists are digging their own graveyards. Capitalists are their own grave diggers. अपनी कबर खुद खोद रहे हैं वो. ये बोल रहा है मार्क्स. कैसे? Okay, that means workers do not have to do anything. Remember, structurally it is happening. Why it is happening? Quick revision. Since from workers we have to extract maximum profit, it cannot be done by increasing length of working day because we have lost. What will we do? Either we will cut the wages of labor or we will replace the laborers by machines. In both the cases, what will happen? You have developed means of production to replace the workers. Means of production means machines have come in. The moment means of production gets developed, the surplus value will also increase or decrease. अब देखते हैं कौन बोलता है. Surplus value will increase or decrease. Surplus value will decrease. Why? Because what is the source of surplus value? What does Marx says? What is the source of surplus value? Labor. Labor is the source of surplus value. Machines are not the source of surplus value. Why? Imagine you have so many machines. Okay, so you are thinking we will become so much efficient. We will have so much of production of goods. But who will purchase these goods? Who will purchase these goods? Unless people purchase these goods, how will you make profit? And why can't people purchase goods? Because they have been replaced by machines. Now they have been replaced by machines. They will not have purchasing power. If they do not have purchasing power, what will happen to those goods coming out from your machines? You will not be able to incur profit. If you will not be able to incur profit, surplus value is increasing or decreasing? Decreasing. So with the development of means of production, the rate of surplus value falls. So is capitalism not digging its own graveyard all by itself? किसी को कुछ जरूरत है रिवोल्ट करने की, कुछ भी करने की किसी को कोई जरूरत नहीं है. आप होएगा सर. Okay. Now, write down the law of motion reveals the inherent contradictions within capitalism. Inherent contradiction. याद है वो term? The law of motion reveals inherent contradiction within capitalism. Inherent contradiction within capitalism. Full stop. With the development of means of production, with the development of means of production, with the development of means of production, the rate of surplus value will decrease. Will decrease because the source of surplus value is C or V? C or V? V. V is the source of surplus value. V was the one which had created more than what its own worth is. S was the result of V. S was not the result of C. बोला था ना? बोला था. Okay. So with the development of means of production, rate of surplus value will fall because the source of surplus value is B, not C. Okay. The law of motion, next line. The law of motion describes the mechanism of the inherent contradiction. Describes the mechanism of the inherent contradiction. Okay. Now, within this law of motion of capitalism, we have three laws. One, law of capital accumulation. Law of capital accumulation. Second is law of concentration of capital. And third is law of increasing misery. Okay. Here, write down one line. In law of capital accumulation, write down one line. Each capitalist tries to expand. Each capitalist tries to expand by increasing output, or what we call a surplus value, bracket surplus value, and reducing costs. By increasing output and reducing costs. They might hire more workers. Full stop. They might hire employee, यानी कि they might hire more workers to increase the output, but they might hire more workers to increase the output, but But the wages of these hired workers, the wages of these hired workers will eat up the company's profits. The wages of these hired workers will eat up the company's profits. Therefore, in order to keep the wages low, capitalist introduces labor saving machinery. Capitalist introduces labor saving machinery. But, full stop, but this will create unemployment. फंस गए, दोनों तरफ से फंस रहे हैं. But this will create unemployment and a reserve army of labor. And these unemployed people will not have purchasing power. And these unemployed people will not have purchasing power. To buy the goods produced from the machines, this will result in overproduction and underconsumption. And overproduction or underconsumption क्या करता है? What does overproduction and underconsumption, what these two things do to the capitalist? Increases his profit or decreases his profit? Loss है, complete loss, बर्बाद है वो. Okay. Therefore, in the long run, the rate of surplus value will fall. And cyclical recession or depression will creep in. यहीं से recession और depression शुरू हो जाता है. And cyclical recession or depression will creep in. Okay. अच्छा. This was first law. Okay. ये लॉ काफी फेमिलियर है. रेट ऑफ सरप्लस वैल्यू जो है, सरप्लस वैल्यू वहीं से निकला है. ओके. नाउ व्हाट इज द सेकंड लॉ? सेकंड लॉ इज द डायरेक्ट आउटकम ऑफ द फर्स्ट लॉ. Second law of concentration of capital is the direct outcome of the first law. What happens generally when companies are not making profits? What is the next step they do? Can someone tell me? General, ये तो जनरल बात है. This is very general thing. थोड़ा बहुत इकोनॉमी पढ़ा ही होगा, ना भी पढ़ो तो भी बता सकते हैं. फायर वर्कर्स तो सब हो गया है, सब कुछ हो गया है, सब कर लिया है. लेस इन्वेस्टमेंट तो ठीक है. चलो मैं बताता हूँ व्हाट विल हैपन. डिस्काउंट छोड़ो ये सब. ओके, आई टेल यू व्हाट इज द सेकंड लॉ. Concentration of capital. When you see that you are in loss, what will you do? You will be helpless, and in that case you will be eaten up by a bigger conglomerate or a bigger company. And here comes mergers and acquisitions. M&A, mergers and acquisitions शुरू हो जाते हैं. Bigger companies start merging with these companies which are making losses. What happens with the public sector banks when they are making loss? SBI उनको अपने पास रख लेता है. आ जाओ. This is what happens. Okay, when Punjab Bank, Sindh Bank, AU Bank, पता नहीं कौन कौन से small finance banks, when these banks are in losses, the bigger banks will buy them. Okay. हाँ, डाइवेस्टमेंट बोल सकते हैं इसको. पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग में होता ज्यादातर. ओके, डाइवेस्टमेंट. राइट डाउन. The falling rate of profits, the falling rate of profit will force concentration of capital. This is what is concentration. Capital is being concentrated, merged, acquired. Okay, falling rate of profit will force concentration of capital. As some capitalist will try to buy out or merge. As some capitalists will try to buy out or merge with small businesses. With small businesses. And यहाँ पे सबसे important चीज आती है. And these are those things which Marx predicted will happen to capitalism, and it has happened many times. आगे आगे क्यों नहीं हुआ वो जो मार्क्स ने बोला है वो मैं बताऊंगा. ठीक है. It has happened many times. This also shows, write down, this also shows that smaller companies will go out of business. Okay. Now, when smaller companies are going out of business, what does it mean? What does it mean? Those people who were in the smaller companies, okay, they will also go out of business. They will also go out of jobs. Okay, because not all of them are going to be integrated into the big companies. Okay, big companies have their own demand, own expectations from the workers. Okay, so what will happen? These unemployed people who were member of small companies which have gone out of business now, these unemployed people will witness downward mobility in their life. Downward. Now they are sinking in. Now they are going to join the ranks of proletariats, the working class. In the sense, like for example, imagine like this. Working class, bourgeoisie. These are two classes. Some people might have achieved higher mobility. Okay, managers बन गए हैं, थोड़ा ऊपर चले गए हैं. They are not just proletariats. Okay. Some have opened their own shops, petty bourgeois. There is one word, petty bourgeois. छोटे bourgeois. ये सफल डेयरी वाले. Okay. छोटे छोटे दुकान वाले जो होते हैं. Petty bourgeois. Okay. Now when economy witnesses depression, recession, what will happen to these small shops? Either they will be closed down or they will be eaten up by the big corporates. And this is what happened during lockdown also. Many shops have gotten closed down. Okay, and what happened to those people? In the language of Marx, all those people have sinked in the sense they have joined the ranks of proletariat. Those people who were once at one point of time were making lakhs, now they are making thousands. Okay, earning their subsistence. Okay, trying to recover from the losses, trying to recover from this slowdown that economy has witnessed. Okay, there are many millions of people like this in India right now. Okay, जो सब out of business चले गए हैं. Okay, Raymond Aron, एक स्कॉलर है, there is one scholar Raymond Aron, Raymond Raymond Aron, Aron. Raymond Aron calls this process proletarianization. Raymond Aron calls this process proletarianization. Okay. Second law is also over. Now, last law. Law of increasing misery. Okay. Write down. Imagine like this. This is one company. Okay, one company is there. Okay, so many floors are there. So many workers are there. Okay. This company aims to achieve higher efficiency, introduces machines. Workers go out of job. Okay. With increased machines, surplus value will also decrease inevitably. Okay. And then under consumption, over production will happen. Okay. Eventually, recession, depression will come. This company will be eaten up by a bigger company. Okay. And all those people who got underemployed or unemployed had joined the ranks of proletariats. Okay. What we also call as the reserve army. That is nothing but people joining the reserve army. More and more people getting unemployed. Okay. More and more people joining the reserve army. That is proletarianization only. Okay. Now what is happening? The more and more people join proletariats, the ranks of industrial reserve army of labor. Okay. The underemployed. What will happen eventually? You will see clear-cut division of society into two people. Polarization. Write down. Society will increasingly become polarized. Society will increasingly become polarized between shrinking capitalist class and massive proletariats. Shrinking capitalist class and massive proletariats that suffers worsening misery. That suffers worsening misery. Full stop. Last line. Finally, a point will come. Finally, a point will come when this cannot continue. When this cannot continue, and revolution shall occur. Okay, यहां से आएगा revolution. यहां से आएगा revolution. Okay, this is what Marx says. यहां से आएगा revolution. Okay. And in these laws, in all these laws, you will see element of the laws of dialectics. इतने सारे laws हैं, देखो कार्ल मार्क्स से इतने सारे laws. In all these three laws, you will see the elements of all those laws. Law of dialectics. Okay. In the third law of increasing misery, you will see elements of which law? First, second, third. clearly I can see element of first law. रेवोल्यूशन का कॉन्सेप्ट कहां से आता है? फर्स्ट में आता है कि इंक्रीजिंग मिजरी will ultimately lead to a point when revolution. अरे तुम पानी को उबालते जाओ, एक पॉइंट आएगा, ठीक है, जब पानी गायब. दिस इज द फर्स्ट लॉ. ओके, चलो, नाउ let us come back to now all these things are equally important. These words, these concepts, these things are very easy. Okay, if understood properly, these things are very easy, and these things will automatically help you have an edge against many other people, because I don't think people read marks like this. Okay, they ratta maro marks only. Okay, surplus value exploitation, revolution, bas itna hi. Now let us try to understand our main topic. Now it will be very easy for you. Class struggle between two classes, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Okay, and Marx says class has two dimensions. One, objective, subjective. These are two dimensions of class. Okay, what is the meaning of these two? वो फटाफट खत्म करेंगे हम, ठीक है. इसको कैसे लिखना है हमने? Subjective is class in itself. Objective is class for itself. Okay. Subjective is class in itself. Objective dimension of class is the class for itself. What is the meaning of these things? Now I'll explain. What is the meaning of subjective dimension of class? Marx says that a class consisting of people having similar relation to the means of production, having similar relation to the means of production. Okay, that is subjective dimension of class. When class have similar relation to the means of production, that is subjective dimension of the class. In the sense, all of you are proletariat. Okay, you, me, anybody here, all the peoples are proletariats. We do not own the means of production. We only have our labor to sell to the corporate people. Okay, we do not own the means of production. We are not Ambanis or Adanis. We are Garibs. Okay. Class consists of people having similar relation. हम सबका similar relation है. Doesn't matter whether you are worker of Microsoft or worker of ये KFC or worker of some chaat bhandar in Chandni Chowk. All you people are similar. Okay, it does not matter whether you are working on Microsoft or Chandni Chowk. You are worker, proletariat at the end of the day. Okay, this is what subjective condition is. चांदनी चौक वाले हो, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट वाले हो, दोनों के दोनों सिर्फ और सिर्फ लेबरर हो, आखिर में ओनर नहीं हो तो माइक्रोसॉफ्ट के, ना ही वो ओनर है चांदनी चौक की उस दुकान का. ओके, ठीक है. व्हाट इज ऑब्जेक्टिव डायमेंशन ऑफ objective dimension of class is when this idiot class in itself realizes that whether we are in Microsoft or in Chandni Chowk, both of us are exploited and our common enemy is the owning class. When these idiots will realize, okay, And when they will stop posting their nonsense pictures on Facebook, showing that they are working in Microsoft or Facebook, when these people will realize that you and Alu Tikki Wala both are same, there is no difference between both of you, when these people will realize, then these people will become class for itself. Now, what is the meaning for class for itself? The meaning of class for itself is that a class which is aware, which is aware or conscious of the exploitation and being conscious of the exploitation, they share solidarity and share solidarity and out of this solidarity they have also identified their common enemy, and therefore brings revolution against the common enemy and brings revolution against common enemy. When all these things will happen, then the class will become class for itself. Till now, we do not have class for itself. We have only class in itself. We have groups working in companies. We do not have groups across the company identifying all these owners of these companies being their common enemy. Remember, today we have Facebook, Microsoft, that is Deloitte, Reliance, okay, Jindal. These people are there and the people working in their companies are also there. But we do not have a set of people to whom all these people are one. Okay, and the set of people who identify that whether we are working in this company or that company, we are exploited. We do not have this set of people till date. Okay, we have only dispersed people working in different companies. When we have this set of people who have identified that all of them are exploited at the end of the day, and their common enemy is only one, the ruling class. Okay, their names may be different, some may be Ambani, some may be Adani, but they are ruling class. When we have this conscious set of people, then the class will become class for itself. Okay, this solidarity is the result of exploitation. This solidarity is not the result of interdependence, Mr. Durkheim. We have solidarity because all of us are exploited, not interdependent. Difference है solidarity में भी और उसके. Okay, so write down. For a class in itself, for a class in itself to become a class for itself, for a class in itself to become a class for itself, there are certain prerequisites. There are certain prerequisites, matlab there are certain conditions which have to be met if the class in itself has to become class for itself. Okay, there are certain conditions. What are those conditions? First condition, homogenization. Homogenization. Second, pauperization. Pauper, not Karl Popper. Pauper का मतलब होता है poor people. In Germany, P-A-U-P-E-R, pauper. Pauperization. Homogenization is one condition. I'll explain the meaning of these things. First condition, homogenization have to be there. Second, pauperization. 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 And third, depression. 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 अच्छा, तो मैंने क्या बोला? क्लास इन इटसेल्फ को अगर क्लास फॉर इटसेल्फ बनना है, कुछ कंडीशंस हैं which will have to be met. Homogenization. Second, pauperization. Third, depression. Okay. These are the bare minimum conditions for class in itself to become class for itself. Which of these class is a revolutionary class which will bring revolution? Class for itself. For itself wala. ठीक है? They are the ones who will bring revolution because they have identified common enemy. They are aware, they are exploited. They do not become happy on being promoted. You will see people updating their status. I have promoted, I have just got promotion. Okay, from junior sales manager to executive salesman. Executive. In the language of Marx, that person who has just right now updated his Facebook status, in the language of Marx, that person is the victim of false consciousness. False consciousness. Okay. Unless that person attains true conscience, unless he attains true conscience, he would never be a member of revolutionary class. He will never be a member of revolutionary. Okay. Write down one more line. Marx believed the members of class in itself are the victim of false consciousness. The members of class in itself are the victim of false jhutha consciousness. False consciousness. Now, what is the meaning of false consciousness? Write down the meaning of false consciousness. Bracket me. False consciousness develops when the degree of exploitation is not realized by the worker. Okay. Or even if he realizes the exploitation, like for example, if you talk to your friend who's working in Microsoft, ठीक है, तो वो बोलेगा नहीं यार देखो अब ये तो है बट कहाँ नहीं है यार, निशात कहाँ नहीं है ये सब, बता. ठीक है, तूने उधर काम करके देख लिया, उधर भी यही है, इधर काम करके देखा, इधर भी यही है, मैं यहाँ काम कर रहा हूँ, इधर भी है, कहाँ नहीं है. Okay, so this is how he will speak to me, that this is everywhere. You cannot escape exploitation. Now, when he speaks like this, to Karl Marx, that person is a member of class in itself because he is helpless. He is speaking in a helpless fashion. अरे यार हमें भाई घर भी चलाना है, ये सब तो सोशियोलॉजी में पढ़ते हैं वो सब ठीक है, वो काम में नहीं आती हैं चीजें, ठीक है। मैं ये आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव had a conversation with. I'm just trying to tell you a real, in a real fashion, so that you are able to understand things. Okay, that these are bookish things, bhai. This is not what is happening in reality. Okay, we have family also. Okay, we have, bhai, people also who we have to look and look up to, and uh, uh, we have to make our own generation also. ये सब ऐसी ऐसी चीजें हैं. Okay, तो अच्छा, you are saying, so the problem is, today class in itself can never become class for itself. At least today it has become very difficult for class in itself to become class for itself. Why? Because Marx, in his book Communist Manifesto, he writes workers of the world, Germany भी नहीं, England भी नहीं, workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but chains. You have nothing to lose but chains. Which chains? Rousseau, Enlightenment scholar. Rousseau once said, men are born free. They are constrained by chains. इस चेन को पकड़ लिया मार्क्स ने इस चेन को पकड़ लिया. What are those chains that Rousseau talked about? Men are born free in the state of nature, but they are constrained by chains. What are those chains? Nation is one chain. The Chinese workers are not going to unite with Indian workers because to them we are Indians, to us they are Chinese. Simply, nationalism will never let class consciousness to get developed, and that is why Marx will never like nation. And remember, nation is in the superstructure. Okay, and nation being a part of superstructure will never let class consciousness get developed. You are American worker. Okay, I'm German worker. अमेरिका नहीं, क्या नेपाल से हो गया, गरीबी बहुत होगी वहां तो, ठीक है. अपना नहीं सोच रहे हैं, एक्सप्लॉइटेड खुद भी हैं, बट नेपाली भूटान का है, ये है वो है. ओके, workers are not divided only by the concept of nation. Workers are also divided by race. Black worker, white worker, white workers given more reward. Black workers are absent. Dalit worker, upper caste worker. Male worker, female worker. Gender, race, sexuality, nation, all these are superstructures which will never let the workers unite. These are the ideologies which are ruling over you, will never let the class consciousness to get developed. And Marx says that with these ideologies, these superstructural forms of consciousness, the capitalist class has always justified inequality and exploitation. These things have actually helped the capitalist class to exploit the people. Okay, capitalist class knows India can never unite with Pakistan. Okay, so let us exploit. I mean, nationalism will always divide these people. Think like that, it's very, वो पता नहीं कहाँ सोचता है वो आदमी, बड़ी अजीब ही चीज सोच रहा है. He is thinking very different thing. Workers of the world unite. Why they are not being able to unite? Why they are not uniting? Because they are divided by nations. Nationalities has divided them. Nationality is something was already there or we constructed. To be very honest, ये तो आप बता ही सकते हो मेरे को. Nationality was already there in this world or we constructed sitting here. We constructed nations, and nationality has divided classes, the working class, and therefore class consciousness developed. Okay, so for class in itself to become class for itself, that is the revolutionary class, there are certain prerequisites. Prerequisites. Write down the meaning of homogenization. Homogenization. Okay, what is homo? The English meaning of homogenization is a process of creating similarities. Ization means process, homogeneous, process of creating homogeneous reality. You, me, I, everyone, irrespective of our skills and education, all of us will have to be similar, and we will become similar at certain point of time. Obviously, when technologies are introduced, machines are introduced in the name of efficiency, then all of us will join one rank. You will get out of from your company, I will also be thrown out of my company. We will be a pool of homogeneous people who have been replaced by the machines and whose differences have been obliterated by the introduction of machines. Doesn't matter whether you're high skilled, low skilled, semi skilled, unskilled, at the end of the day, all of us will be homogenized with the introduction of machines. Higher skilled person will also be replaced by another machine which is also highly skilled. Okay, at one point of time, low skilled worker was what we required, what the capitalists required. When the capitalism actually came into existence, it was running on low skilled capitalist workers, low wage. Today, with the ever increasing urge to have profit, they have introduced and hired many workers who are high skilled, but those high skilled workers are not feeling secure in their jobs. This is what they always say, yaar, job security nahi hai, job security nahi hai. Next day we may get fired. Next day. आज तुमसे बात कर रहा हूं, कल गायब हो सकता हूं. Okay. And this is why people prepare for IAS. Okay. So, homogenization means obliteration of differences between high skilled, low skilled, semi skilled, unskilled. सारे differences खत्म हो जाएंगे. All these differences will get over between these seemingly different classes with the introduction of labor saving machines. Okay, जब labor saving machines आ जाएंगी तो high और low में फर्क क्या रह जाएगा? कोई फर्क नहीं रह जाएगा. Okay, and then क्या हो जाएगा? What will happen? Solidarity will be achieved between high skilled, low skilled, semi skilled, unskilled. Solidarity. एक प्रोसेस जा रहा है क्लास इन इटसेल्फ से क्लास फॉर इटसेल्फ का एक वो बन रहा है एंगल. सॉलिडारिटी आ रही है. ओके. पॉपराइजेशन. व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ पॉपराइजेशन? पॉपर मींस पुअर. पॉपराइजेशन मतलब प्रोसेस ऑफ इंक्रीजिंग पॉवर्टी. Obviously, when all these people will get homogenized with the introduction of labor saving machines, all these people who were victim of this labor saving introduction labor saving machines, all these people will obviously become poor. Purchasing power will fall down. I told you, if they do not have purchasing power, how will they consume? That means they have become poor, and this is the process of becoming poor. Okay, it is a process. Pauperization is happening. Solidarity, हम साथ भी हैं, हम गरीब भी हैं. Okay, depression, last phase. Write down the meaning of depression. Depression implies mixing of the upper strata with the lower strata. In the sense, what is the meaning of upper strata here? Managers. Okay, executive class, not the workers. Okay, when these managers, executive, senior executive, ये वो सब CMO, DMO, जो भी है, when these people depress this strata, depresses into the proletariats, when they join the ranks of proletariats, realizing that at the end of the day, all of them are exploited only, they are not getting what they are producing. चाहे आप सेल्स मैनेजर हो, चाहे आप क्लर्क हो, फिजिशियन हो, all the people are not getting what they are producing. Okay, this is what Marx says we have to realize. Depression. Okay, when these three conditions are met, then class in itself will become class for itself. Okay, now the question is the biggest question: why class in itself has not yet become class for itself? Why the revolution has not yet occurred? Can someone tell me? Superstructure, very good. यही तो है वो चीज जिसने सब कुछ रोक कर रखा हुआ है. The only reason, write down, the only reason why class in itself has not yet become class for itself is the prevalence of false consciousness perpetuated by the superstructure. The only reason why class in itself has not yet become class for itself is the prevalence of false consciousness perpetuated by the superstructure. Perpetuated by the superstructure. जब लॉकडाउन हुआ था, when lockdown was imposed, what did we do? All the Indians on their social media accounts, they started writing, let us dump Chinese goods, nobody will buy Chinese goods, nobody will buy Chinese goods. अरे तुम्हारी nationality जो है is nothing but false consciousness. ये नेशन के नाम पर तुम लोग और डिवाइड हो गए हो. कार्ल मार्क्स को गुस्सा आ ही जा रहा है, रोज आ रहा है कि the bourgeoisie and proletariats of India are revolting against the bourgeoisie and proletariats of China. Arey, but this is not what should be there. Rather, the proletariats of India and China should be criticizing the bourgeoisie of India and China. But उल्टा हो रहा है. क्यों हो रहा है? Because nation has divided us. Okay. इंडिया नाम आते ही बुर्जुआ प्रोलेटेरियट के डिफरेंस खत्म हो जाते हैं. अंबानी के दोस्त बन जाते हैं सब लोग जो कल तक अंबानी वाले थे. नहीं, अंबानी ने हमारे लिए ये किया है, वो किया है, ये किया, वो किया है. नेशन is one ideology which has befooled you, not letting you realize that you are exploited. यही है देश का नमक, टाटा नमक, खाओ इसको. ठीक है. So last topic is alienation. Okay. Alienation. What is the meaning of alienation? Very simple concept. अब तो खत्म हो ही गया है. तो ये बेसिकली उसी का बाय प्रोडक्ट है. ऑलरेडी सब ये पढ़ चुके हो जो तुम, मैं बताऊंगा अभी तुम्हें. ओके. In simple language, remember, in primitive communism, then ancient society, then feudal society, then capitalist society, and then जो आगे आएगा, ठीक है, जिसके ऊपर आगे बात करेंगे once I'm done with alienation. Okay. Marx is saying only one thing, that in primitive communism, the workers had full control over what they want to produce. The homo faber was fully creative, fully expressive being, species essence was at its extreme potential. Species being at its extreme potential. In primitive communism, species being what was at its extreme potential. What is the meaning of species being at its extreme potential? In the sense that worker, in those times, whatever the worker form may be, the worker was free to express himself the way he wants to. He was free to make a fishing boat. He was free to make bow and arrow. He was free to make stones, cutting stones, etched stones. Okay. Free to hunt anything. Okay. There was no Wildlife Protection Act also. Okay. He was free to do whatever he wanted to. Primitive commerce. Species, highly potential. Okay. He was free to make paintings on the cave also. Bagh paintings that we have in Madhya Pradesh. He was free. वो primitive communism का ही वो है, मान लो ऐसा, ठीक है. He was free to carve figures on the caves. जैसे जैसे हम प्रोग्रेस करते गए, what is happening? The more you progress in ancient society, what happened? The slaves. The moment you become slave, you are not free. You will do what the master will tell you to do. Okay. You are not even free to have a baby. Okay. What you will do, for how long hours you are going to do, that will be decided by masters. And ancient society was the first society when human had become private property to another human. Okay. When humans become private property, do you think he will be expressive? No. Expressive कहाँ रहेगा वो? कैसे होएगा? Species being कैसे होएगा? Private property. If this glass is my private property, I am free to do whatever I want to do with this glass. Okay. If another human is my private property, उसको कुछ करना है मेरे से पूछेगा पहले. Okay. He cannot be so expressive or creative. Okay. To do anything that he wants. In companies, you will see, if you want to be creative, you want to do something, okay, you are not given enough freedom or room to express your creativity. You are simply asked to do whatever minimum is required from you. Rest we have different people for those things. Okay, you cannot be creative. Okay. In feudal society, were serfs free to produce what they want to produce, or they were asked to produce what they were asked to produce by someone else? In feudal societies, even peasants were not free to produce what they want to produce. They were producing what the plantation, colonial planters wanted them to produce. कभी इंडिगो उगवा रहे हैं, कभी कुछ उगवा रहे हैं. How much they are going to get for that produce will also be decided by the lords. Now, they do not have any power over what they produce, how much they produce. Okay. In capitalist society, the proletariats are the worst. Okay. Proletariats are worse than slaves. This is what Marx says. Why? I'll tell you. Proletariats are worse than serfs, worse than slaves. Why? Because today the relation between humans have turned into relation between things. Things. Kaise? Okay, kaise? Before explaining that, okay, I'll have to tell you briefly about one chain of commodity that Marx talks about. Chain of commodity. Then you will understand alienation. In primitive communism, the relations were like this: C1, C2. C1, C2. What is the meaning of C1, C2? I am the producer of tomato. You are the producer of garlic. I was free to produce tomato. You are free to produce garlic. I am not able to produce garlic. आता नहीं है मुझे. You are not able to produce tomato. तुम्हें आता नहीं. Okay. You want tomato. I want garlic. हम दोनों की दोस्ती हो गई. Okay. I gave you tomato. You gave me garlic. Barter exchange in primitive era. I gave you deer. You gave me lion. Okay. In this ancient and feudal society, what happened? Commercial purpose. That means C1 and C2. Now M is coming here. What is M? Understand? I have produced tomato. Okay. You are producer of garlic. I gave you tomato. You gave me garlic. This was what was happening in the primitive era. Now, in feudal and ancient era, what was happening? I produced tomato. I sold tomato. I got money. With this money, now I can purchase garlic. Understood? There is no direct relation. Relation is through money. Okay, relation is through money. That is why. You produced tomato, you sold tomato. With the selling of tomato, you got money. With this money, now you get garlic. Commodity 2. Commodity 1. Exchange for commodity 2 through money. But what is happening in capitalism? Since you are the worst people in the history, according to Marx. Capitalism. In capitalism, what is happening? M1, C, M2. इसका मीनिंग क्या है? इसका मीनिंग ये है you produce tomato, you sell tomato, you get money, but with this money, you are not going to shop to get garlic. Rather, with this money, you are going to buy one more acre of land, and on this land, you will sow more number of tomatoes so that you could have more amount of money, so that you have more amount of money, so that you invest a lot in the land. In future, you buy more and more acres of land. Basically, it is the money in cycle. You are not consuming, you are only finding ways to earn more and more money. Money, which was at one point of time, was just a means to consume the end, has now in itself become the end. Okay, money has become the end today. एक फिशरमैन है, fisherman is fishing. Subsistence, Odisha, let us talk about Odisha, any coastal belt. Okay, let us talk about Odisha. In Odisha, you are fisherman. You fished the fishes, you consumed it, subsistence khatam, baat khatam ho gayi. In commercial, when societies become commercial, what will happen? You are fishing the fish, you are selling the fish, you get some money. With this money, you meet some other needs. Commercial. What is happening in capitalism? What is happening in capitalism? You fish, you sell the fishes, You get money. With this money, you buy a bigger net to catch more number of fishes, so that you get more amount of money when you sell these fishes, so that you get more bigger amount of net, and this will go on and go on and go on, and then one day you will become leader of the fisherman association. Okay, तो ये हो रहा है कैपिटलिज्म में. This is what is happening in capitalism. You are producing more than what is required. This is why Gandhi told us, limit करो अपनी needs को, बस करो. Okay. Marx says labor is creating worth more than its value, and this value is being possessed, pocketed by a class. Okay, when you buy more bigger number of nets, what will you do? In order to manage these bigger number of nets and big number of ships and boats, you will hire more number of people. Okay, and there begins capitalist exploitation. यही होएगा. ठीक है. So basically the relation between humans have turned into relation between things. Okay. Now, alienation. चलो, I'll explain all these. The last topic is alienation. I'll explain it tomorrow only. कोई doubt है तो पूछो. Is depression same as formation of petty bourgeois and lumpen proletariat? देखो, depression का meaning क्या होता है? There is one difference between depression and recession. In depression, what happens is that depression runs for, like for example, recession you will call an economy to be in recession when it is going through that cycle at least for 2 times. Okay, for 2 consecutive times, the cycle of economy is mired with lower consumption. That is a recession. And when then this cycle continues for 4 frequency numbers, then it is called as depression. In the sense, depression is extended version of recession. Depressed, finally एकदम need मतलब consumption है ही नहीं, हो ही नहीं रही है. Okay, तो पहले recession होता है, फिर depression आता है. So is depression same as formation of petty bourgeois and lumpen proletariat? When there is depression in economy, that means there is no consumption. When there is no consumption, there is no profit. Simple सी बात है. When you are not consuming, how someone else will gain profit? And when you are not gaining profit, you and the other people will join these similar ranks. Okay. In lockdown, many people have gotten unemployed. If you read the data, you will get to know many people have lost their jobs. And in fact, if someone has read economy also, how I will explain this is like, you can understand it like this, that during the lockdown, Indian economy witnessed informalization. We've actually progressed towards informalization. The idea is, the modern idea of development is to go towards formalization of economy, but what we actually witnessed was informalization of economy. Okay, more and more people got underemployed, and more and more people were vulnerable. Forced labor का concept शुरू हो गया था. They were readily available to do anything for any amount of money. Okay, random work कर रहे हैं. Okay, अच्छा, एक टर्म यूज बीच में किया है इसने प्रांशु ने, लंपेन प्रोलेटेरिएट. लंपेन प्रोलेटेरिएट क्या होता है? नॉट सो इंपॉर्टेंट, बट मैं बता देता हूँ ये टर्म. एक तो होते हैं प्रोलेटेरिएट्स. ओके, लाइक वी आर द वर्किंग क्लास. One are lumpen proletariats. You know, lumpen proletariats are even below the proletariat. And Marx is not very happy with these lumpen proletariats. Who are these lumpen proletariats? वो जो पड़े नहीं रहते हैं, दारू पी के से लेटे हैं, सड़क पे गिरे पड़े हैं, जिन्हें कुछ पता ही नहीं चल रहा है दुनिया में चल क्या रहा है. Okay, these are lumpen proletariats. Marx does not have any expectation from these people. Druggist, alcoholist, peddlers, beggars. These are lumpen proletariats, and Marx does not expect anything from them. Marx, but has a lot of expectation from the proletariat class. Okay. Mayan Yadav सोहिनी गांगुली का एक क्वेश्चन पड़े यार. Sir, worker has dissatisfaction. Sohini is asking. Worker has dissatisfaction and disinterest for work at times. How Marx cater that? मार्क्स कभी केटर नहीं करेगा उन लोग को, वो तो सिर्फ बता रहा है कि क्या होने वाला है. यू नो व्हेन यू आर बोर्ड एट वर्क, Marx clearly says boredom is a very natural process in the work. You know, why do you get bored? When do you get bored? When you are doing same thing every day, monotonous repetitive task. When you will perform monotonous and repetitive tasks, you will become, in the language of Karl Marx, alienated. A topic that I will teach you tomorrow. Okay, imagine that worker who had full creativity. He could do whatever he want to. Full expressive. Today you cannot do whatever you want to. You will do only what the capitalist will tell you to do, because you are dependent on him for your survival. And that's how the death of expression, the death of creativity creeps in, and you become like a cog in the machine. Okay. प्रांशु, is depression same as, ये तो हो गया. Egan, sir, does capitalist society leads to investment purpose society? Investment purpose society, what is the meaning of this line? Egan, थोड़ा simple करके लिखो. What is investment purpose? I do not know the meaning of this investment purpose society. Shubham, yes, random work. Sohini, sir, worker has dissatisfaction and disinterest for work at times. How? ये तो हो गया सोहिनी. Mayan, sir, can again explain difference between homogenization and depression. Homogenization का मतलब क्या हुआ? Upper skilled. मयन तुम्हें हिंदी तो आती होगी ना? थक गया हूं मैं इंग्लिश बोल के. ठीक है, सीधी सी बात है. अपर स्किल्ड, सेमी स्किल्ड, अनस्किल्ड, लो स्किल्ड. दीज पीपल, जितने भी इनके डिफरेंसेस हैं आपस में, स्किल्ड, स्किल्ड लेबर जो हम बोलते हैं, स्किल्ड इंडिया मिशन, ये सब बकवास है. कार्ल मार्क्स बोल रहा है ये सब बेवकूफ बनाया जाता है. डी स्किलिंग करके एक स्कॉलर मैं तुम्हें बताऊंगा, हैरी ब्रेवरमैन, ठीक है, जो क्या बोलता है. बेसिकली मार्क्स कह रहा है अपर स्किल्ड हो, हाई स्किल्ड हो, लो स्किल्ड हो, सेमी स्किल्ड हो, अनस्किल्ड हो, ये सारे के सारे जो डिफरेंसेस क्रिएट किए जा रहे हैं हमारे अंदर, ये तरीके हैं क्लास फॉर इटसेल्फ को रोकने, बनने में रोकने से. बट एक दिन ये सारे डिफरेंसेस खत्म हो जाएंगे धीरे धीरे. जब मशीन्स आती रहेंगी, कॉस्ट एफिशिएंसी की बात शुरू हो जाएगी, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट बढ़ने लग जाएगी, तो हाई स्किल्ड क्या, लो स्किल्ड क्या, दोनों साथ बैठेंगे और दोनों गालियां दे रहे होंगे कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास को. ठीक है, ये होमोजेनाइजेशन है, साथ मिलके बैठ रहे हैं. अब डिप्रेशन क्या है? डिप्रेशन इसी का रिजल्ट है. वो जो ऊपर की क्लास थी, जो स्ट्रेटा था, वो डिप्रेस हो गया है, नीचे की तरफ चले गया है. ठीक है. प्रतिभा चंदन, so while differentiating between unemployment, underemployment, according to Marx, all are underemployed as surplus value will always be more than variable capital. बिल्कुल सही बात है. All the people are underemployed. Okay, all the people are underemployed. Going by this logic, when an economist would look at underemployment, how economists would talk about underemployment? To an economist, underemployment means that, like for example, your degree is BTech, but your work is like that of a peon or a clerk. That is underemployment. Okay, but underemployment is something that everybody is facing. Rajshri, the capitalists already making losses. Some are becoming petty bourgeois from capitalists. Then why will the workers will revolt against them? Why workers will revolt against? ये तो क्वेश्चन ऐसा है, इसके ऊपर लंबे लंबे वो लिटरेचर्स हैं. इसके ऊपर मैं कल बताऊंगा तुम्हें. ठीक है, why workers will revolt and who are those workers who will bring revolution. We know that capitalism is not the end of history, and we know this. Okay, capitalism has evolved. It is not the same which was once described by Karl Marx. It has also evolved. We also have socialism, but do we have communism anywhere? Okay. Marx, when talks about communism, something that I will explain tomorrow, he talks about communist society. Society, any stateless society. What we have today is communist state. We do not have communist society. We have states being ruled by communist parties. That is not what the idea of communism is to Marx. So when people criticize Chinese communism, Russia communism, they are stupid. They are not criticizing Marx. They believe that they are criticizing Marxian idea of communism. They are not doing that because they are only criticizing a Chinese nation. Okay, they are not really criticizing communism per se because communism तो अभी आया ही नहीं है, तो criticize कहाँ से कर लो? Communism नहीं आया. शुभांगी, काल win-win situation. Both side does proper. हाँ हाँ बिल्कुल. क्या बात है? भाई देखो, if I am earning lots of money, okay, in the language of Karl Marx, if I am earning lots of money, I'm happy, okay, I'm doing party all night, okay. In the language of Marx, I am living in false consciousness. I'm not able to realize that I'm still underpaid or I'm exploited, okay, something like this. Now consider second case. I'm getting bored of my job every day, routine task, same, okay. In that case, again Marx is right, because in that case I'm alienated. So what is that one point when Marxism can be proven wrong? Like, if I'm happy, then Marx will say, I told people they will be in false consciousness. If I'm sad, I told people they will be alienated. अरे तुम दोनों केस में सही हो, गलत कब हो गए? This is what Karl Popper is saying, that if you cannot be proven wrong ever, then Marxism cannot be science. It is pseudoscience. Investment purpose. Yes, yes, very good. Yes, Keegan, bilkul. It is purely investment oriented. Our economies are investment oriented. You will also one day, when you will become millionaire, will you consume millions? No, you will invest millions in stock market. ठीक है? Or in some fixed deposit, recurring deposit, insurance policies. ये क्या करते हैं हम? इन्वेस्टमेंट ही तो करते जाते हैं बार बार. It is the chase for money that we are doing every day. Consumption is not the end. Today, money has become the end. Okay. Sir, Marx was against government, so why did he not mention about the work process in administrative arena? Because government employees are also proletariat classes. Were they considered as socialism, quoting as working for the welfare of the Sohini? At that point of time, there was no concept of state. State was there, state in the sense state providing work for the workforce. It was all industrial capitalist class. Remember Adam Smith talking about self-interested individuals, laissez-faire, free market economy, free hand. Okay, let the state not intervene here. It should be laissez-faire. Okay, so state providing you employment is not a very old concept. It is very new concept. Very new concept came after World War, basically. After, has anyone ever read Beveridge report? Beveridge Commission. Beveridge Commission. Beveridge. Beveridge Commission. यहीं से तो आया सोशलिज्म. हाँ, वर्ल्ड वॉर का जब मैं सीन बताऊंगा तब बताऊंगा बेवरेज क्या है. सर, मार्क्स वाज अगेंस्ट गवर्नमेंट, ये तो हो गया. ओके, मार्क्स बिलीव जब स्टेट आएगा सब बढ़िया हो जाएगा. बट क्या ऐसा हुआ? व्हेन बेवरेज कमीशन वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड आफ्टर वर्ल्ड वॉर, Did it really happen? Okay, there is something that we will get to know. Chalo.